This podcast may contain explicit language. Welcome to the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, the show that uses a unique grading style to redefine what the greatest movies are. I'm Tom Duncan.
And I'm Dana Duncan.
We also welcome back our returning celebrity guest, creator and host of the Best Picture cast. You know him from his previous episodes of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Lost in Translation, Gran Torino, Stalag 17, Shane, A Fistful of Dollars, The Best Years of Our Lives Revisit, 12 Angry Men Revisit, and The Shawshank Redemption Revisit. Please welcome back, Kieran B.
Hello, Tom. I want to play a game. It is good to be back. I'm happy to be here. Most people are so ungrateful to be podcasting, but not I, and not the people here on this podcast with me. It's always good to be back. And, I woke up with the tape recorder next to my bed today and told me to head over to this link. And here I am. So we'll see what you have in store for me.
Yes, this has been a long time coming. I know that you've been looking forward to it. You may be the most excited person on this episode. I certainly was not. Thank goodness the hard part is over. But we also welcome our other returning celebrity guest, film critic for In Session Film, Geek Vibes Nation, and Keith Loves Movies. You know her from her previous episode a few weeks ago on Joker. Please welcome back, Jaylan Salah.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Dana. I love being here.
Well, strange bedfellows we may have. We're all chained together in our basement dungeon.
Oh boy!
Just don't shock me. Don't electrocute me. This is my only.
Well, I was gonna say I might shock you. I don't know if I will electrocute you. But let's dive right in. Tonight for our 234th episode, we discuss Saw for its 20th anniversary. Directed by James Wan, written by Lee Wannell, music by Charlie Clouser, starring Carrie Ewells as Dr. Lawrence Gordon, Danny Glover as Detective David Tapp, Ken Lung as Detective Stephen Singh, Dinah Meyer as Carrie, Mike Butters as Paul Guttrecht as Mark, Michael Emerson as Zepp Hindle, Benito Martinez as Brett, Shawnee Smith as Amanda, and Tobin Bell as Jigsaw. Recognition for this movie? Saw was released on October 29th, 2004, after initially debuting at the Sundance Film Festival that January. After topping the opening weekend box office, the film would go on to gross $103.9 million worldwide to become one of the most profitable horror films since Scream at that time. Critics were mostly negative at the time, but the film caught on with a much younger crowd during its initial release. Bloody Disgusting, a film magazine, ranked the film 10th in its list of the top 20 horror films of the decade, with the article calling Saw perhaps the most influential horror film of the decade. The Daily Telegraph listed the film number 14 on their list of top 100 list that defined the 2000s. Saw currently holds a 50% rating among critics on Rotten Tomatoes, a 46 score on Metacritic, and a 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So before we start as we normally do, Kieran, you do a sub 50 horror film draft. Was Saw eligible at a 50% rating?
It just missed coming in at 50. It is sub 50, so it would have had to have been 49 to get in there. All of this, pretty much all the sequels are eligible, though. I believe only the newest one, Saw X, which is bizarrely like supremely rated by critics, is not. But no, Saw at 50 is just safe, which is such a shame, because I would have loved to select it.
So as we normally do each week, Dad, what is your relationship to this film?
None. I watched it for the first time.
Yep, I popped my cherry too.
Yeah, had seen this film advertised and such, but and saw that there were multiple sequels, but I had no knowledge of it, how many. Had never seen it, and quite frankly, had no desire to see any of them.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what direct design put me to have this on the schedule for this year at this exact time, but a Halloween movie for a Halloween release schedule where it came out at the exact right time for the right anniversary. I guess it was somewhat synergy, but I guess my earliest recollection of these movies is when I was a freshman in high school. I went to a school that was like an hour away from where we lived. And so I had to ride the bus an hour each way each day. So it was 2 hours total. Anyway, I remember kids watching this on their like portable DVD players on the bus. That's my earliest memory of these and the sequel, because I guess that must have been roughly around like a year later or something else that they
Yep.
put this all together. But I just was never into these. I don't particularly like them. I think my statement on Saturday in the group chat that I have with our distinguished guest from the BPC, as well as the Revisionist Almanac, was, why do people voluntarily watch these things? They're so fucking stressful. So I turn to our guests. What are your relationships to this movie? Because they have to be much more robust than ours.
Okay. Okay, so this movie came, I was in high school, okay? And I wasn't that big of a horror fan back then. Like, I was a horror fan, but not into torture porn, not into some of the darker stuff. I was just, like more into vampires, werewolves, all the classic 80s, 70s stuff. And my best friend at the time went and watched it in the movie theater, of course, because she was braver. And she came back to me, and I still remember her telling me the whole plot and me going, I will never watch this shit. What? And she's like, he sawed his leg in front of the. I was like, okay, I don't care. This is not for me. And then I grew older and bolder and mature and boring. So I had to watch all kinds of grisly, violent films and started analyzing them like, what do I like? What do I dislike? What is my style? Like something like High Tension, I love. But Saw, I watched it and still I didn't connect with it. Like, why? Because I mean, it felt like the same vibe as Seven to me, but less artsy, and the acting was terrible. So it's just turned me off immediately. But at least I respected the intelligence of the first one rather than the stupid last ones, which get stupider and stupider. And oh yeah, let's take chunks of your body. No, no, no. Thank you so much. I don't want that. But I think my relationship to it is, it feels like a puzzle. It's good. It's well made for an extent, at least compared to the other sequels, but it's not something that I vibe with, even as someone who now appreciates violence done in an artsy way.
Oh boy. Okay, so my relationship with Saw. I now this was one I the original Saw had been out for a couple of years, similar to Jaylan there. I was like, hell no, that's not for me. I'm not going anywhere near that. I believe the first and the second one were out on DVD when I was a senior in college, and said, it was like a day watch, like day horror watch. I'm like, you know what? I got the two DVDs here. I'm gonna get a 6-pack of beer. I'm gonna bite the bullet and do this. And if it ruins my life or scars me for life, then so be it. I'm gonna do it. And I absolutely love them. I just completely, the twist blew me away. The whole thing, I thought it was really clever. The ensemble cast, which we'll talk about, it was just a lot of fun for me. The first one, the second one is actually pretty good too, and I totally agree, John. The sequels get stupider and stupider as they go. I love them all, but at this point, then Saw 3 is coming out, and every Halloween a new Saw movie comes out. So me and my friends would go every Halloween from Saw 3 on. So I have seen them all in the theaters there, from 3 all the way up to I think now 10 just recently came out. They took a break there in the middle. There was the one with Chris Rock. I don't think that one was like that. I think that was I think that was in 2020. So that might not have even played in theaters, or if it did, it was so limited that I didn't get out. So I didn't get to see that in theaters. But I have seen them all. And then 2 Halloweens ago, I did the Saw Halloween watch. I watched all all of them in sequence throughout the month of October. Wow. And there's no better way to see how bad some of those sequels are than watching them in bulk like that. I mean, it's something wild. But no, it's a series I appreciate very much. And I'm not really into the whole heavy gore thing either. For some reason, there's a little magic to this series. Like, I've never seen Hostel. I don't ever plan on watching Hostel or those movies. For me, this series just has a little built-in magic for me that keeps sucking me in. And I can't wait till 11 comes out, whenever that is.
Oh, and it will.
Well, you'll be watching Saw 23 in your wheelchair.
No, I won't.
I won't.
Not you.
I would then.
Yeah, I'm not watching a single one of these past this one.
That is a very fair life decision that you've made for yourself.
Yeah.
I watched
I'm
about
good.
like 3 after it. And trust me, you're not missing much.
Yeah.
If I know you well, Thomas, you're not missing at all.
They start going after the lawyers in some of the later ones. Be careful.
Okay. Let me,
Well,
as they
okay.
should. That's fair. I mean, I think I'd rather watch The Greatest Show on Earth or Gigi probably more than this. Maybe not Tom Jones, but like it's getting into that territory.
Yeah, Tom Jones is basically a Jigsaw trap for me. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm apprehensive of these movies, but they don't viscerally anger me. And those that anger me, like Tom Jones, are reserved for a special place in hell. So, what is this movie about?
Making
This may be a
money.
very loaded question. This is essentially a student film, Dad, so no.
Okay,
The sequels,
sure.
yes. The original,
They wanted to try to figure out how they could make a film. So they decided to
yeah.
kind of engineer it in a way that they could do it with low budget.
No, this was basically James Wan and Lee Wannell were, I think, contemporaries in film school together. And this was their project at the end, was to see if they could come up with a film that they could do for the most part in one room. Then they got an actual budget that allowed them to do some outside filming. But for the most part, this is all done within that one room.
Yeah, I believe it started as a short film. There's a version where it's just the short film, and then they expanded from there. But no, it is like, compared to some of the sequels, which turn into total money grabs and work with pretty big budgets by the end of it. This is a small budget film, and one of the things that I appreciate about, I mean, I like big concept, small budget types of films. That's why I like Terminator. That's why I like, some of those types of films. But what is it about? Boy,
There's a lot of plot, but I'm not sure there's a lot of story here.
My idea,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just say a sentence. Someone really tormented and sick, wanting to get his torment and sickness on the world. Like, I can see this person, and this is why I don't respect, like, oh my God, he has depth. No, he doesn't. I've met tons of people like this Jigsaw guy, and they all suck in real life. They're just tormented and sad and sadistic, and they want to say, like, oh yeah, I get cancer, so I get to fuck everyone up. No. And this is what I hate about it. It's just like, okay, just dude, come on. This is what it is all about for me. I'm just waiting for Kieran to give like her right explanation of the film, because this is what it is for me.
yeah, I mean,
Wow, that is putting a lot of pressure on him.
I mean, in the horror thriller genre, we can dance around like what is a film really about, and how much does it have to be about something. Like, what is the original Halloween really about? And I'm sure that there are people who worship the film that could come up with all sorts of subtext and whatnot, and that's fine. But I don't know that that's what John Carpenter intended when he made the film. What is Scream about? What is there's, I mean, that's more of a meta thing. But I'll say what.
Yeah, I think there's actually a good story to Scream comparatively, where it's kind of circumventing or reinventing the genre to a bit by being somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Meta was the word you used. But I don't know about this one. This one just seems like fierce exploitation.
I make one little brief stab at it. which is all about life is the choices you make. And sometimes you make sacrifices, relationships, health, etc., for success or to do something in a business or whatever. You make compromises. Okay. This is supposed to be like the ultimate, where you go, it's uber on that concept, which is what are you willing to sacrifice to save yourself or something you love?
Yeah, and I think it weighs into maybe the how often people become complacent in life and how they do not take life for or how they do take life for granted and how do they don't live every day like it's their last. And again, how effective it is in delivering depth is left out there for discussion. I mean, I don't know that to me what I like about Saw is not about depth. It's about a clever plot, a clever setup, and kind of the mouse chase, the cat mouse chase that goes on throughout it, and the twists and turns. It's a thriller to me. It's a fun kind of mystery that unravels as it goes with this with a very realized villain. I'll put it that way. And I don't think the movie needs to deliver depth to be effective. I don't think that type of movie needs to.
It's an escape room on steroids.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I thought it was a poor man's Seven, if I was going to make any comparison. Like it's an inverted version of that, where instead of the cops, you're the victims. But other than that,
yeah, there's definitely a heavy Seven influence there with that, and I would say maybe one of the places that this succeeds beyond Seven, and this isn't going to be something that people will love to answer, but they found a more marketable version of Seven. Something that can turn into an annual event, that can merchandise, that can franchise itself. It's a franchisee, so and that goes back to Dana's original statement. It's about making money, and that's probably what the producers and Lionsgate and them realized within what was essentially a student project. But there's a place for that in the film world too. We've mentioned that as these sequels go on, they become less and less earnest. But I do think from the start, it is kind of fun to see a film project turned into a massive franchise. So I think there's some value there.
I guess on the point of branding or franchising, I would probably come down on a basis that the film franchise, the idea or what pops out of this to be franchisable is the villain. And to me, that's probably, or maybe kind of the rough structure of the story. Whereas with Seven, you had such great individual performances that the writer, the director, the primary actors all become part of the brand as opposed to the structure of the story and the rest of it. Like Saw relies so much in my mind, and kind of reading some advanced work on what happens in some of the sequels because I was never going to watch them. And well, frankly, there's some remaining questions that I had to just answer for myself with the way this movie leaves off. But they all follow a very similar rough structure. There's some type of torture game that's afoot in all of it, and there's some type of like reveal that's always going to happen at the end of it.
Yeah, there's a prestige nature to something like Seven too. It's a David Fincher film. It's starring Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. And Kevin Spacey. I mean, it's got Oscar winners up and down it. It's got Oscar nominees up and down it. I don't know that Saw was striving to be better than Seven. I think they were probably happy to make it and then make Aquaman like somewhat later.
But to be fair, when they made Seven, David Fincher was only his second movie, and his first one was a bomb and almost completely destroyed a franchise. And Brad Pitt was not yet Brad Pitt. He was coming off of Thelma and Louise, but he was kind of like a young star. He was not Brad Pitt of today, who we think of as a good actor who is an Oscar winner. And while Morgan Freeman is coming off of The Shawshank Redemption, it's still not that he's like Morgan Freeman yet either. He hasn't gotten to the point yet where he's God's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got an Oscar nomination, though, for a Best Picture nominee. Brad Pitt, as you said, Thelma and Louise is a Best Picture nominee. I mean, there's prestige in this thing. There's, and yeah, no, it's early with some of it. I would agree with that. It's not like they were all there at the peak of their heights. But I think that 7 heavily influenced Saw. But I really don't think there's anyone out there defending Saw being better than 7 or that have even having that conversation.
I don't think that's where we're going with this.
Yeah, Saw had its big name Carriole, men in tights,
Danny Glover,
the Princess Bride. I mean, after he cut his foot off, he'll never be able to be dancing around in tights anymore.
So, why do people like watching these movies? I think there's only one of us who actually enjoys watching stuff like this.
Okay. Before Kieran replies, I feel like my relationship to violence is very complicated because, like I told you, there are violent. I like slasher films so much. I like even the absurdity of some of the sequels, but I don't know why there was something like a barrier between me and Saw that didn't make me connect to it. Probably because it felt like it was pointless, depressing state of extreme violence to me. Like there was nothing. Like even in this film when I watched it, it felt like nothing. It felt like a loop of despair, but then it lacked the depth enough for me to even connect with the disparity of it all, with all this bleakness. Like for me in 7, it was a very depressing movie, very desperate movie, and I felt yes, but I totally get why he did what he did. But here it felt like I want you to be grateful for your life, and then I realized no one is grateful for their life in this movie. Even Amanda is going to be yada yada in other sequels. It didn't feel like there was a point to anything that was happening. Probably the only parts that I liked are the parts that were one on one in the bathroom. But then it lacked the depth enough for me to connect with it, or maybe I'm just too complicated. But for me, something like the first Halloween was so good because it talked about particular themes that I could take and analyze and think about, even though it's basically just, like, yeah, 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 you're a slasher movie. Yeah, yeah, let's kill all those horny teenagers. But still, there was something out of it. But Saw, I couldn't connect. I couldn't find anything except that it was bleakness for bleakness. It was very nihilistic to me. It felt like despair till the end of the road, and still too violent for me to even take it, lightly. Like, oh, let's put on some Saw and have fun. Unlike some of the terrible, awful Nightmare on Elm Street or just Halloween sequels, where I could just watch the mindless violence and have fun with popcorn.
I would say it's the formula that they have put forward. It's the mousetrap nature of the film. It's the villain, the not just Jigsaw himself and what he does in the film, but the artistry of it, the puppet, the presentation of it. We'll put creativity in quotes, but the creativity of the different traps that are in there. It's a formula that you can set your watch to, and pretty much how you're going to start and how you're going to go. There'll be some twists and turns, some surprises along the way, but you have an idea what to expect from a Saw film, and that tends to be successful within the horror genre. When you have a setup that you can follow, it will be clever enough where it will twist and turn you in some certain ways. It'll be a bit of a maze. It'll be a bit of a mousetrap, and you'll end up at the end getting pretty much what you expected out of it. So I think that's why people like them. Now, I don't think that there's a huge amount of people that love these films. I really don't. I mean, I think that as time has gone on, it's become nichier and nichier, even though they are still releasing them. It's definitely not, a film you can show grandma.
Let's not even limit it necessarily to just Saw as a franchise. I truly mean this because there's always been a barrier for me between, I guess, what you'd call the wide variety of film and horror. It's similar to my taste in, I love a lot of different kinds of music, but country just never appeals to me. Now, I think I understand my difficulties with country a little bit more because it's to a cultural aspect that I can never quite understand. That's always separated me, probably because of my upbringing, my multicultural, multinational background, and singing about your tractor has just never seemed realistic to me. But with horror, I guess I just don't understand why I have such a divide from the rest of people as to their thirst for this level of violence and fear. I guess is fear a desirable thrill?
I've heard this explained in a way that made some sense to me. Is that people like experiencing the adrenaline from fear in a contained environment where they know that it's not real. They know that it's going to end after 90 minutes. And that little shot of adrenaline is something that actually can be calming and exciting in a certain way. That's how I heard it explained once. And I have my limits with the horror genre. I'm not coming in here as like the ultimate horror advocate. I can be the ultimate country advocate if you want me to do that too. I'm sure you don't.
You've been that way before.
What can I say? I'm a northerner who found it late in life and appreciates it. But
yeah, you're a transplant.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm a total phony country poser. But yeah, it's an interesting genre. I mean, I think that Halloween and horror movies and this kind of whole season can be that way. I mean, there are people who just love this stuff, who just eat it up. The other day we have like the Halloween decorations up in front of the in front of the bar, and this family's walking by with their little 3-year-old, and we have one of those stand-up skeletons, like a human-sized skeleton, like sitting on a chair out in front of it, and the little girl just walks up to it and hugs it, and her parents just throw their hands in there and go, "We're sorry. She's just loves spooky things. We have no idea where she got it from. We have no idea why, but she's just drawn to it." So I just think there's a little aspect of society that they just love Halloween. They love horror. They love, and then of course there's a big difference between Nightmare Before Christmas and Saw, but there's a barometer there in between somewhere.
I don't know. I don't want to make anyone answer for the entire movie going community, but when our mutual friend, Mr. Andrew Corns, refers to horror films as his relaxation, much in the same way that my father watches Hogan's Heroes to just kind of unwind, I don't understand that. How can that be calming? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. This is entirely too stressful for me. I should not have to separate it between the commercials of a football game in order to get through it.
Okay. I did not find it stressful.
I didn't find it stressful. I found it very bleak and sad. It's a very sad movie for me. Like, for me, it felt like, the end is nigh. It talked to a depressed part of me that doesn't like to be fed this kind of depression, but a different kind of depression.
Dana, how was your first experience with it? What was had that 100 minutes ago?
I had no idea where it was going, what was going to exactly happen. I just anticipated that there was going to be all kinds of plot twists and things that I didn't expect. And so nothing surprised me. I mean, I thought it was, to be perfectly honest, I thought it was creative, but there was a certain level of formality or formulaic nature to it that it just, you knew this was going to happen. I thought it was well done and well thought out. It was well filmed, but okay, there's a lot of stuff that some people enjoy that it's not my cup of tea.
So I think this is only like the 6th or 7th different horror film we've discussed on the show. We usually cover like 1 to maybe 2 a year. So Jaws, Silence of the Lambs, The Shining, Scream, Psycho are the ones that immediately come to mind. So with that in mind here, again, not to make you guys answer for the entire genre itself, but is there a horror sequel that ever lives up to the original?
Aliens.
I suppose, yeah. I guess if you count Aliens, then our total is up to like 9 on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an original Alien person myself, but Aliens is a good answer there because people love it. Different director, different kind of prestige director. So I could see how people would say that. It's hard, man. I mean, I think that there are some franchises that go on in a stronger way than others. To me, if I'm picking one where I think the sequel's better than the original, might be when you look at the Friday the 13th series, you might find one of those like Final Chapter, which I think is the 4th one. That's pretty strong. I think the second one is the first one with Jason actually in it. But it's tough. It's tough. And
okay, can I get a recommendation for any horror franchise that doesn't have the final chapter or ends in the title, and then there are like 4 more movies after it.
Oh, there's much more than 4. I think there's
Yeah.
there's 7 after that one.
Even so,
If I had to pick a sequel of a horror film that I thought was the best, and that would be Hannibal, which is the sequel
Wow.
to Silence of the Lambs.
that's better than The Silence of the Lambs?
No, that you said that was at least a decent sequel.
Exactly.
No,
Yes,
I
I
said
think
that's
Hannibal-
better than the original.
Okay, well,
This
no,
is what
but I
meant.
think Hannibal is probably a quality sequel. It's one of the few sequels that I thought actually was worth watching.
Because even John Carpenter says that Halloween 2 was just like a cash grab for everybody, and he phoned it in. And he
Yeah.
lamented the fact that he wrote the script in like 2 days.
Well, all of that is very clear. I would rather my flight be delayed than watch Halloween 2 again. So that movie's awful.
But like Jaws 2, Jaws 3, Jaws 4, Psycho
I
2 and
mean-
3. I mean,
Yeah.
Now, technically, I guess isn't Silence of the Lambs technically a sequel to Manhunter? So you could play that game if you want to get creative with it.
theoretically, yes.
Yeah, I think what we're
I don't
finding,
know.
Tom,
It just-
to answer your question, is that no, like there's
Aliens is an outlier.
I totally, yeah, exactly. It's just the same way that Dana said it. I don't find it superior to Alien, but it lives up to the legacy. This is what I believe. Like, I love both equally. I even love Alien Resurrection. Come on. But I feel like the sequel is very good. You wouldn't anticipate it. You would think, oh my God, how can they top Alien? Alien is great. And for me, someone who adores body horror, especially female body horror, I think Alien is a masterpiece franchise in its entirety. So when they make Alien and then you think, wow, what a great thing. And then they have Aliens and you feel like, what? This is what I believe. Alien is perfection, but then you have Aliens and it's perfection as well. So they can be like on the same level.
Yeah, it's well said.
All right, Dad, are you ready to dig into this a little further? Do you have our plot summary ready for us?
Oh, yes. Saw is a horror film that takes a grim pleasure in its own sadism, positioning itself as a grisly thriller and a twisted morality tale. At its core, the movie revolves around 2 men, Adam and Dr. Lawrence Gordon, who wake up in a dingy bathroom, chained to opposite sides of the room. They soon discover that they are the latest victims of a deranged figure known as Jigsaw, a serial killer with a perverse mission. He doesn't just murder his victims, he forces them into life or death games where survival is determined by how far they are willing to go to save themselves. Director James Wan revels in pushing the audience discomfort, presenting a relentless series of traps that are as much about mental anguish as physical pain. The characters' desperation is palpable, yet their choices feel less like genuine human decisions and more like pawns being moved by the screenwriter's hand. The result is a film that thrives on tension and shock, but leaves little room for reflection.
Boy, loaded summary there at the end, huh? Roger Ebert snuck in the room at that last bit.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
That's right. In the style of Roger Ebert.
God, AI's giving its opinions now, huh? Jeez.
Well, thank you. Did you know? In order to make the actors feel what the characters were going through, all of the bathroom scenes were shot in chronological order. Did you know? Director James Wan wanted the camera movements to reflect the 2 main characters' emotions and personality. He filmed Dr. Gordon with steady, controlled shots and Adam as handheld shots to capture their emotions of the situation. Did you know? Director James Wan built the Jigsaw doll for the film. Did you know? Director James Wan and Lee Wannell wanted to make a film after they finished film school, but they could only afford 1 room. However, they challenged themselves to create a film that only occurred in 1 room. This film was The Product, and it is considered one of the most profitable and successful horror films of all time. Did you know? In post-production, director James Wan discovered that he did not have enough shots or takes to fill out most of his scenes. So he and editor Kevin Grutert created their own filler shots by doctoring some of them to make them look as if they were filmed through a surveillance camera. And with that, we will take our first break and we will be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, next week for our 235th episode, we welcome back a different member of the Five Timers Club, Sarah Duncan, as well as new guest Brian Scuttle of Sonic Cinema Podcast for a politically earnest film of yesteryear, as we discuss Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 1939 for its 85th anniversary. Directed by Frank Capra, written by Sidney Buckman and Miles Conley. Music by Dmitry Tiomkin, starring James Stewart, Jean Arthur, Claude Rains, Edward Arnold, and Thomas Mitchell. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you.
That's REELGOOD.
All right. Before we get further into the episode, Kieran, what's going on over at the BPC?
Oh boy, BPC. We are in a good section over here, a good section of the calendar. We are just wrapping up our 5th season, which is constituted by 15 Best Picture winners covered. Every time we get to the end of the season, we come together and we rank them all. So our season 5 rankings are up. You can hear us rank films such as Gone with the Wind, All About Eve, Hurt Locker, Shape of Water, Cimarron, Nomadland, amongst others. French Connection, Midnight Cowboy in there too. So yeah, so that's a lot of fun. The 5 of us get together.
And the grossly underrated Ordinary People.
That's right, Ordinary People in there as well. So you can find out where we slated each of those. We also ran a couple tournaments here. We got 2 tournament winners. Our sub 50 tournament winners, Tom alluded to a little earlier, the sub 50 tournament. That ended up being a previous episode of GMO, Man on Fire. So we have that episode recorded and ready to go. That should be out soon. And the winner of the horror tournament, which we made sub 50 this year as well, is The Ring from 2002. So we got an episode on The Ring coming up. We'll have our Thanksgiving episode, which is going to be Sleepers this year. And there'll be a Christmas movie too. So we got a lot of good stuff coming in as we head to the end of the calendar year. So Best Picture cast, check us out.
So forgive me because this is not my genre, but Sleepers is a Stephen King adaptation that you do for every Thanksgiving.
So, okay, good question. If people are scratching their heads saying, what the hell does Sleepers have to do with Thanksgiving? The answer is nothing. But so we traditionally do Stephen King movies every year. And it's usually myself, Joey R., and Chris G. And Chris G, now, I think 3 years in a row, without realizing it, has recommended Sleepers as his recommend, not remembering that the previous Thanksgiving recommended it. I think he's done it 3 times. So we're finally like, all right, it has to happen now. Now we're just doing Sleepers this Thanksgiving and look out below. So it is happening here in 2024. I have never seen the film, so I don't know what I'm in for, but I know it's got a good cast, and we'll take a little break from Stephen King this year and do a little Sleepers.
And The Ring is the one with the videotape and the girl with the way too much eye makeup.
Correct. Yes. Crawling out of the well. Yeah.
Okay. Never seen it. Just know the general references to it and kind of the overall premise. But okay, fair enough. And Jaylan, what's going on with you, and where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Jaylan Salman. They can find me on Twitter, Jaylan_88, because my Twitter now changed. And on, of course, YouTube, the J Days Review YouTube channel, where I just interact with fellow cinephiles, interview film critics, cinematographers, hair and makeup people, just to talk about art, to talk about cinema, to talk about films. And I'm preparing a few more reviews for In Session Film and Geek Vibes Nation, probably some heavy op-eds to sink my teeth into, and this is where they can find me.
Excellent. And as always, the links for both of our guests will be available both on the website and in the show notes for this episode. Without further ado, it is time for everybody's favorite Ask Dana Anything. We do have an audience submission. Now, this is more of an explanatory question, But we did get a question from our super fan, Eliza from Australia, who asks, Dana, why do you start your rating at 7 and work your way up or down? Why not 5? Is 5 not neutral? Do you assume everything is therefore good?
Well, it's part of trying to be an optimist that, yes, I do believe everything should ultimately be good. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, which is always where I just started. I don't know. I said 7 is about the benchmark, and I try to be fair by going up or down from there because I do think people ultimately try to do the best they can.
The most simple explanation for this is that he actually adopted me when I kept saying that I started at a 7 and worked up or down. And the reason that I do that is that you have to assume the baseline being a 7 because there's a lot more room for movies that are old to work themselves down due to subject material or older thoughts or bad CGI or technical effects, such as I think when we discussed it going back to our first ever episode, I was very critical of how bad the special effects look at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the melting faces look so kind of wax figurey at this point in time. So my whole point was is that there's so much more that you can take off of a film as opposed to leaving it up. And if we had started at a 5, we'd have a lot of films that would never quite get up to a 10 because there are very few things that age well, but there are a lot of things that age poorly. And so we started at a higher barometer because there's more room to go down than there is to go up. But that's on us for 234 episodes in that we have to really explain the scoring system a lot better. So I apologize for that. So thank you for your submission, Eliza, but I turn the floor to our guests, and Jaylan is just chomping at the bit. Her interviewing skills need to go on tilt here. What do you got for Dana?
Okay, so Dana, do you find catharsis in particular films that you watch and evoke feelings of discomfort? Like if you watch a film, let's say this is not your typical film, a film that evokes feelings of discomfort in you, but have you ever watched a film that evoked feelings of discomfort in you and yet it was cathartic despite your nature?
I know the answer would be yes, and I'm trying to figure out or think of a specific example of a film that was something that I would not necessarily have expected to like. Actually,
that's not where I would have gone with this question. But if I were to just help you out a little bit, the question kind of begets itself to something we're going to discuss for our 250th episode, and that's Schindler's List.
Yeah. That's a film in and of itself that that's going to be such a hard film to do because it's such a hard film to watch. But I tend to be rather self-reflective. So watching a film that causes me to think about myself in a way that I had not thought about or anticipated always does that to me. Sometimes I will generate things from a film, especially some rom-coms that I never thought about, or or brings up some feelings that I had not thought about in years, that type of thing. So yes, I can understand exactly where you're coming from in that, and I think it's probably one of the reasons why I connect more with historical films as opposed to future or sci-fi, because I always want to know how we got to this point. And so when I'm watching a film, a historical film tells that point. It's not just for me individually, but for where we are as a society or a country or a humanity. And so that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about it and why I tend to gravitate towards historical films.
Okay, so my second and final question is, because I personally go through that. Sometimes you watch a film and you feel very guilty that you like this film. Like for me, it was something like I Spit on Your Grave, or it could be like stupid film like Dirty Grandpa, for example. So I would be like, Jaylan, you can't just watch this film and love it. How dare you? So have you ever had a film like that that got this reaction from you? Like, I like this film. Shame on me. I want to know this film.
She wants
Okay.
your guilty pleasure film.
Well, I've had a few of those, which is I felt really guilty going when Tom and his friend went to see a different film, and I went on a Saturday while my wife and daughters were out of town, and I watched Old School.
Yes.
I felt I'm sitting there watching this and laughing and whatever, and then I like run into somebody I know, and I'm like, "Oh, what are you seeing?" Old School. Oh, was it any good? I said, not really, but it's funny.
We're going
So-
streaking!
Bring your green
Come on,
hat.
everybody, down to the quad!
One of my favorites.
I love
Oh,
it.
So,
when he does
yeah,
the ribbon
I,
routine at the end, just
having had my fleeting moment with Snoop Dogg, going back and watching that now with Snoop Dogg in it, and the Bishop, who I did actually meet, one of his entourage. So as I drop names,
Yes. Awesome. This is a great answer.
you can check that marker off on your bingo card, everybody. Name drop by Dana.
Do I get one too here, Tom? A submission for the ADA?
okay.
Please.
Dana, has being a Brewer fan ever felt like you were caught in some sort of lifelong jigsaw trap? Have you ever felt like a jigsaw victim watching the Brewers throughout your life?
Yeah. Let's just say that it's the 1982 World Series, and I've been waiting. I've been a Brewer fan since 1970, so it's been 13 seasons I'd been a Brewer fan, and they make it to the World Series. And I have my first girlfriend, and she decides that we needed to spend the afternoon together. And so I ended up spending the afternoon with her instead of watching the World Series because I'm like, they'll be in there again.
Ooh.
Well, it worked out well for me, by the way, but we won't go there. Wink, wink, nod, nod, say no more. Anyway,
This question has been previously alluded to on a previous episode.
yeah, anyway,
Thanks, Dad. Always wanted to know that about you.
yeah. Anyway, so there's another one of my guilty pleasures is watching anything Monty Python.
Ooh. Yes.
Dude, Where's My Car and Grandma's Boy are pretty high up on my list.
I love to Where's My Car? I know.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
so
It's
bad.
just awesome. I don't know. I just like these stupid movies. Some of them are just good.
And the thing is, I've actually taken something out of it and applied it to real life that's actually like pretty profound. I find most
See?
couple fights to be like the scene where they're trying on their tracksuits for the first time with the Asian procurer of the store, and they're figuring out who has their tattoos for the first time. Most couple fights are like this. Dude, what does mine say? Sweet, what does mine say? Dude, what does mine say? Because
Sweet.
you're answering the other person's question, but they can't figure out that you're answering their question. And so it just keeps going in this circular fight until you have a third party, the Asian establishment owner, who comes in and says, idiots, yours says dude, yours says sweet. Unfortunately, I've had to play the Asian establishment owner for my parents for the last 20 some years.
Just as an aside, this has been for 36 years, my wife and I arguing about this, which is, I think, the stupidest thing that makes it so great is the painting of dogs playing poker. I think it's so tacky and bad that it's awesome. And I've wanted one forever. And so she refuses to let me buy one and have it in the house.
See, the thing is, we had an offer from a former employee to do what is it when you basically like retain them, whatever that is, but was willing to do a commission. Yes, was willing to take a commission for a dogs playing poker, but it was going to be all of our old dogs.
See, I know. And see, the other one that I think is just absolutely awesome that I finally was able to get, which is the Dancing Santa.
Well, you had to win a bet and then like put a lot of guilt on for like 10 years in order to get it. But yeah.
Yeah. But I thought I saw it and I thought, that is so tacky and so horrible. It is awesome.
So any other questions? I think we've explored my father's sports fandom, guilty pleasures, and sex life a little too long. So let's move into the rest of our show.
Yeah.
We left off at best performance. Dad, who did you have down?
I had Lee Wannell simply by the screenplay because I thought it was creative. For what was probably, I think, was his first screenplay, I thought he did a really good job of coming up with a concept that worked.
Kieran, who did you have?
Best performance in this thing, for me, it certainly wasn't going to be one of the actors. I mean, I think that this ensemble cast comes together kind of like an unruly kindergarten class. They're all going for it in all sorts of different directions. Like one guy didn't get his nap, one guy didn't eat lunch, one guy just wants to be heard. I mean, it is the levels that people are going for, and this is actually, it's like astounding to watch. I had to go with James Wan, the director. I think he showed his prowess in this thing at a very early age, his first film, and he'd go on to do the Conjuring series, and we'd see him in some other things he'd do on the bigger Marvel end of things with Aquaman, and he's carved a really nice career out for himself, and he did it rubbing sticks together a bit with this thing, starting it as a short film and letting it grow into the quote unquote phenomenon that it's become. So to me, I go James Wan as my performer.
I also had him as my best performer, but before I go much further, how dare you say Aquaman is a Marvel character?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. What is he? DC? What is he?
Yes.
What is he? One of the Care Bears? Like I could give a shit less about any of that. But a lot of people bought it.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, well, okay. I was very critical of the Aquaman films because Jason Momoa is not a good Aquaman. He's a surfer bro playing Aquaman. It doesn't make any sense to me. But beside the point, that's a different universe. They'll recreate and do whatever. The second one was such an eyesore that, yeah, I'm good. Anyway, but yes, James Wan is clearly the winner of the film because he goes on to do a whole bunch else. Not only in just horror, because he's got several other franchises that he's working on, but he goes on to several bigger projects. I think he's in charge of the top grossing Fast and Furious franchise film. He did $1 billion grosser in Aquaman. So he's got some other stuff there. He's got some ability and some talent, whereas nobody else from this really did anything else. Like Danny Glover's not doing Lethal Weapon anymore, and that's partly due to Mel Gibson, but it's also that by this point he seemed like he was kind of phoning it in for a paycheck already. So, and Carrie Ewells is kind of reduced to doing side bit characters on Psych. So yeah, but either way, I think he creates a good tone for the film overall. And I think from a structural standpoint, the way he at least was trying to dress up something that was going to be rather cheap to start with and made this somewhat serviceable and not see a lot of its flaws, I think it is commendable.
I did want to shout out Dana's top performer, Lee Wannell. would go on to just from a few years ago write and direct the Invisible Man movie, Elizabeth Moss. So he's kind of resurfaced a little bit there, and I thought that movie was really, really strong.
Very good.
Yeah, so it's good to see that he might now have some contributions to give with it too. So we'll see where he goes from there.
So Jaylan, you're the only one left. What was your best performer?
I think for me it would be like James and Lee Wannell. Why? Because they're two friends, like writing a script, imagining a film, working on it together. So I gotta give it to them. Like I love this idea, probably because I was dying to do it someday, where I would be like, I'm a writer, and then I'd meet a director, and then would work on this film where it just takes place in one room and it's shitty and it's bad, but still we are creating something. So I gotta give it to them. They're the best, and I hated all the actors. I mean, wait for my most charismatic performance. So definitely them.
Yeah, I have to agree on most of the acting, but I will give a couple of exceptions. So my best secondary performance is Tobin Bell, because with very little presence and screen time, and the fact that for the most part he's just doing it with some voice acting, he creates an indelible character that's lasting in this movie. So Jaylan, who is your best secondary?
Definitely Monica Potter. She plays the wife because she gets to scream and protect her daughter. So I give her credit for that. Good job, woman. Yes, stand up for your daughter. And she kind of fight him. And I hated Zepp so much, wanted him to die. So definitely that was like a catharsis for me. Good girl.
Love Monica Potter.
For me, I have Carrie Yules. For the simple fact is it's at least a role that he's not some bumbling idiot or wearing tights.
I mean, to be fair, I have him as my most charismatic because I found him the most believable of any of the acting jobs in this movie, but...
True. Actually, I thought, okay, he did the best acting job overall from what I saw. Danny Glover just looked like somebody who was trying to see how over the top I could do it.
He famously had no idea what this movie was. He didn't know that it was even a horror movie. And apparently he was appalled when he saw what the final product was. This is what you got me to do?
This is awesome.
Just check your bank account.
To be fair, the scene where he's watching him on the surveillance monitor and he's just muttering to himself sounds like he's masturbating.
Oh man.
Tom, sometimes you just lob up the potential for multiple jokes. I will show restraint.
Okay.
Restraint in the Saw episode. Who knew that was coming?
Kieran, who's your secondary?
Okay, so for me, the secondary here was the score, composed by Charlie Clouser. It teeters on bad television at times, but it really comes together there in the end. That final piece, I think it's entitled "Hello, Zepp." When that builds up and plays as the twist is revealed into the slam of the door and game over, to me is just it's the best. It's why I love watching. It always makes me happy that I rewatch the thing, because I'll sometimes I'll just drive around with that playing, and it's a great little tune. Secondary performance is the score, Charlie Clouser.
Okay, so I already gave my most charismatic. Who else would like to go?
I'll keep going while the mic's hot. I made fun of the acting in this, and it is something you should do in watching this. You should make fun of the acting, because it's the best kind of bad acting. It's really fun, over the top decisions are being made everywhere. I think the two guys in the room, the direct, they both they looked at him, they're like how precise do we have to be with our American accents here? And the guy's like, don't worry about it, just do it, because they are barely getting the American accent there throughout the whole thing. But it's wild. But to me, the most charismatic of them all is Billy the Puppet himself. He is all the iconography. Here he is right here. Let's have him show the people. Billy the Puppet, He is the lasting image of this thing. He is the iconography that moves forward into this franchise. And every time he pops up, it's creepy as shit. When the head turns and it's the hello, Amanda. It's and the things bobbing. It's to me that's the charisma in the film. Billy the Puppet.
Hello, Amanda.
Definitely most charismatic for me is Tobin Bell as the corpse. Like, he played the corpse perfectly, but not anything else for me. Like, wow, you played a great corpse, but nothing else. So this is the most charismatic character or actor ever in this film. Yes.
Don't diminish voice acting. We give it Oscars on some podcasts around here.
Yes. But still, he was more charismatic as a silent corpse than as an actor. So yeah.
I did like that little Maynard Tool dance he does as he gets up at the end there,
Exactly. Wow.
like the sober music video.
For me, I have a tie. I have Monica Potter simply because she at least seemed believable in that part, and she had a nice presence when she was in the scenes. The other is the bathroom. I think I've been in that bathroom multiple times, usually while I'm drunk.
I was going to say, have you not visited a Taco Bell on like State Street? Or
yeah.
any convenience store bathroom in Illinois?
Oh, well, the bathroom in Taco Bell on Milton Avenue in Janesville, Wisconsin, after a night of drinking at the Gyro Lounge, usually involved a guy running for a particular statewide office right now who would go and just absolutely trash the bathroom
This is
on
public,
purpose.
Dad.
Huh?
You don't need to out a candidate who is still currently running for something, a public office in the next 2 weeks.
Hey, him and Dana were chained in the same bathroom together. He's got to get it out somewhere.
We don't need to hear about Dana's kinks anymore.
I gotta say, this is my 12th time in the show. That's by far my best, my favorite charismatic I've heard. The Saw bathroom is incredible. Incredible. That wins.
Yep. All right.
Well, we're glad you made it out of that bathroom that you stumbled into.
Exactly. You're alive, Dana. This is awesome.
No one slammed the door on you and said game over.
Oh.
Let's go to best scene. I have somehow 5 nominees. I found it really hard to come up with 5 scenes that I really enjoyed, but all right. The cold open.
Yeah.
So when we wake up in the bathroom. Jigsaw's background. So basically when they're finally like revealing that the Jigsaw killer and kind of his other victims and all the other stuff that's going on with him. Then the actual shootout at Jigsaw's, where he gets the best of one of the detectives and almost kills the second one. Then escape from Zepp, which is the daughter and the mother escaping from this trap or whatever. He's got them tied up. And then finally the ending. So, any other ones to include?
I'll just say when they first get the tape recorders and they first push play, there's an audience anticipation there in those. I don't know if that's kind of semi-included in some of the stuff you lined out there. It's tricky because like Saw, the entire franchise is just an assembly of set pieces. And really, anytime they start trying to have a story, it's like, stop this. Let's bring a trap out. Yeah. So, and I think that covers it, I guess. And I'm sure listeners at home, you might be saying, oh, what about that trap? So, yeah, you could throw all the traps in there too, if that's what you like.
All right. Hearing no others, we have cold open, tape recorders, Jigsaw background, shootout at Jigsaw's, escape from Zepp, and twist ending. Out of these, what is the best scene?
I'll go. To me, it's the twist ending. It's the one that's the most entertaining, the most unanticipated. Yeah, you didn't necessarily see it coming. And so to me, that's always going to be.
Yeah, I full-heartedly agree. If I were to go with a secondary one, I'd probably go the Jigsaw background, where they're kind of exploring some of the other traps, but the twist ending is by far the most creative thing about the movie.
I'll go 3 in a row. Same thing here. The shot of Adam, pressing play, and you have Jigsaw rise slowly in the background. I mean, that's a money shot right there. That's what brought home all the big bucks and all the future sequels. And my wonderful score playing in the background too. To me, yeah, it's a great payoff. The false finish into that is just real fun. So yeah.
Do you ride a tricycle to that music?
Wow.
I'm not ruling out the possibility of it in the future. I'm not ruling it out.
In the gym, you should like try. Listening to it gives you power.
I've had my gym redesign their exercise bikes to tricycles, and I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jaylan, best scene for you?
Definitely the cold open, especially because when he's like almost drowning, I laugh at him so much. It's just awesome. But I like it because you don't know what's going to happen, at least back then. Like, oh, what's this film? What is going on? But seriously, like now when I watch it, I was like, he's like playing terribly a guy who is almost drowning. I was like, wow, dude, you suck. You're awesome. So definitely the cold open.
My favorite scene, the escape from Zepp, because I like the victims getting the upper hand and feeling a sense of relief that they might get away from this. However, by the rules of the horror film, you knew that something else was going to still happen and that it was only a temporary sense of relief. But I still like that small sense of relief that I got for even a fleeting few moments.
My favorite scene is really to me. Anytime we're in the bathroom there with those two is where the movie really cooks for me. The police procedural end of it, I'm less interested in. I do enjoy when they kind of like almost capture Jigsaw. That little set piece is cool, but ultimately it's when they get their hands on the tape recorder, they press play, and it's like we're now figuring out, all right, let's let the game begin. Let's let the escape room begin. Let's let the mystery start to unfold. Every time I watch, it's just kind of fun getting things started in the room with those two.
My favorite scene definitely would be also, apart from all the best scenes, would be like the reverse bear trap. Because at least this made sense to me. First of all, it was very violent, but cool violence from my demented point of view. And second of all, because there was something, at least. All the others are like, yeah, you're just covered in inflammable substance. Come on, read. He's gonna die. The other razor stuff, he's gonna die. And I was like, boring. But then here, at least he got me. Oh, is she gonna survive? Although there were amazing sequences that reminded me of like trashy rock music videos, like Linkin Park. And I felt like, wow, awesome too, great. Why did you have it in this serious scene? You made me laugh. You broke the fourth wall. Still, it was still cool when she was opening the stomach and bringing out the stuff. I felt like, okay, that's one of the best traps. And yes, although it was kind of gory, but at the same time, at least I had something to root for. The others, I was like, you're a goner. They're all gonna die. Even the guy with the screws kind of like piercing the neck and stuff, I felt like, okay, you guys, you have no chance. But her, Amanda, there was a chance. So this scene was kind of a favorite to me.
Dad, don't say the credits. He's done it before.
Awesome.
I did not do that this time. I did have the cold open because it does kind of set out where things are and how kind of lays out where the film is going.
Okay, let me put it this way. Does anyone not have the twist ending as the most indelible moment?
No, not me.
So I have a version of it. Just mine is the very end of the slamming of the door and the game over. To me, that's what sticks in my brain as Saw. Like that's the indelible moment. Game over. Slams the door. That's Saw to me. So, but that's part of the twist ending. That's the conclusion of the twist ending.
Except the doctor's going to get help. He knows how to get there. He's not going to get stuck there and die.
Well, we'll save that for remaining questions.
Yeah. So I did not have that as the most indelible, but I mean, the twist ending, yes.
Okay. So that looks like a good spot for our second break. We'll be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, and before we get to the Stanley Rubric in a minute, if you're ever curious about our Master Greatest Movies of All Time list that has every graded movie we've ever discussed in the show, there's a link in the episode description of every episode of this show, or you can go to RonnieDuncanStudios.com/Gmode podcast and find it as the top entry on the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast show page. That has the grades we've done so far for all 210 movies we've graded, and we continue to add more each week. Make sure to check that out as we go and follow along. Also, you can follow each individual episode on our website as well. That has the notes for each individual episode with all of our scores, category nominations, and the individual factoids for each episode of the show. Just click the link in the episode description of this episode or go to RonnieDuncanStudios.com/Gmode podcast to find that. Dad, do we have anyone to remember this week?
Unfortunately, we do. Troy Duvall, 53, American reality television producer. He was involved with Dancing with the Stars, Basketball Wives, and The Surreal Life. Liam Payne, 31, English singer, was in the group One Direction. Sherry Coben, 71, American television writer and producer. Caden Alley, Ryan's Hope, Bailey Kuiper's POV. Aaron Kaufman, 51, American film director, Superpower, and producer, Machete Kills, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. And Mitzi Gaynor, 93, American actress. There's No Business Like Show Business, The Birds and Bees, and South Pacific. Singer and dancer.
I really don't have a whole lot to say on this. Obviously, we have one severely young person on this list that died in a weird circumstance. From what I could tell, fell off a balcony.
Yeah.
But drugs were involved. I don't know how much we want to go into that, but obviously not a good circumstance. We have two other people who were in their early 50s who you would say that they died way too young as well. We have a member of, I guess, old Hollywood royalty, if you say Mitzi Gaynor.
Yes.
But I just don't have a whole lot to add. I don't have a lot of personal relationships with all of these. My relationship, I guess, if you could say it is something with One Direction, is very flimsy or tangential, hearing some of their stuff occasionally. And he had, I think, one or two solo songs that hit it big, but I don't have a whole lot to add this week.
Well, Mitzi Gaynor is 93, and she had a long, long career, both on stage and on Broadway and in films. And I think she did both the stage play, There's No Business Like Show Business, which starred Ethel Merman, and then South Pacific, which was the James Michener book that was turned into a musical. So, long career and held in great esteem.
Feel free to cut this if you want, but I just, on the Liam Payne situation, there was the controversy with TMZ sending pictures out of the accident and the body. It was really just, to me, really just egregious. And they've been towing the line for a while, and I think we need to learn to respect the privacy of, these are people, and they have families, and we're not out there. It just, that whole thing just annoys me. So I just felt compelled to say something. But we forget sometimes that these celebrities are humans that live lives too, and we don't need to constantly be taking pictures and paparazziing and all that. Let's live our lives. Let's let other people live their lives. But
I would have thought that they would have learned their lesson after the lawsuits with the Kobe Bryant incident. But
yeah,
I don't know.
It's a real life Nightcrawler situation. If you've seen the Jake Gyllenhaal film, it's
exactly.
I have.
Yes.
Because I was on with Grant to talk about it on the 2014 episode of the Revisionist Almanac, out already.
There we go.
And which I told my dad to watch months ago, and I doubt that he has.
I think I think Dana would like that film.
I know my dad would love it.
Yeah.
That's why okay, not to go off on a totally other thing. I will save it here for after this point here. So let me finish this point up first with, and so we recognize these here with a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. All right, Tom Rant here. There are so many people in my life that I tailor my recommendations to, and then they never take them. There is one person who will take any of my recommendations and actually bother to like watch stuff. It's to the point anymore that I shudder if anybody actually asks for a recommendation, because I know they will never use it. I have recommended shows to my mother up the yin yang, and then she will come to it 3 years later when somebody else suggests it to her.
Oh no. Tom, anytime you want to recommend me a film, I will put it at the top of my list. How about that? I can't promise I'll do the same with the television show. The television shows are a big commitment. But a movie, I will put it up there.
We already said, between Sarah Shea, Andrew, and myself, that we already gave you a recommendation for Christmas in our swap. So have you bitten the bullet yet and watched Bull Durham?
I have not yet, but I will 1,000% will. I 1,000% will watch that.
Because as a coach and baseball person, we're very well aware that may become your favorite film after watching it.
We'll see. I'm baseball films, even though I've dedicated
you have an
my
aversion
life
to them. Yes,
they're just not my favorite in the world. But I Tim Robbins and Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but I look forward to it.
It is the most baseball of baseball movies.
Very cool. I will watch it for you guys, and I will report back. Hopefully, by the time we're talking Clooney here on Gmode.
All right, so let's move to best funniest lines. I only have 4 potential nominees. This is not a dialogue movie, really. So take of this what you will, but you guys may have a lot more than I do. John to Amanda. Congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you. Not anymore.
Great. I had that too. Some people are so ungrateful. I love the delivery, but have to go with the first time we hear it, the pressing of the play. Hello, Adam. That's just great to me. That's we'll hear the hello and then 1,000 different names as the series goes on. But the first time you hear it, it's great. And I have to go with game over and the slamming of the door. Great stuff.
The funny line would be, he doesn't want, like the way he said it was so melodramatic. I just snapped like, wow, awesome. He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through our feet. And I just like, shut up.
That's amazing.
Please. He was killing me. This is one of the best.
I also like how all of a sudden Adam is just doing shtick in there. Like it's like, they're like in this horrific moment and the guy's like, I didn't cheat on my wife. And he goes, I don't care if you covered yourself in peanut butter and had a 30-person gangbang. we got time to work shtick in here, huh? Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Really, this is awesome.
Open mic night at the bathroom.
I don't know how much more I have to live. That I got to get these jokes out first. Somebody can hear them.
Adam, face it, Larry. We're both bullshitters. My camera, it doesn't know how to lie. It only shows you what's put right in front of it.
Hello, Amanda. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game.
My last girlfriend was a feminist vegan punk who broke up with me because she thought I was too angry. This reminded me of what someone would say about me. It felt like you would say I'm angry. I imagined this girlfriend. I really wanted to see the storyline. This is insane.
Last one. I'll be out after this, but I went to bed in my shithole apartment and woke up in an actual shithole.
Why is Adam sassy? He's like,
and then we'll see his apartment and be like, oh yeah, that is a shithole. That is a shithole apartment. Damn. Yeah, I'm out after that.
Dad, do you have any others?
No, I don't.
Okay, I got one more. Adam, I'm having a blast. This is the most fun I've had without lubricant.
Yeah, see, this is exactly what Kieran was saying. Like, Adam, you know, what is this? You're chained to the wall, dude. You're gonna die. How is this attitude coming from?
Also, you know what I hate about airplane food?
Again, open mic night at the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, an involuntary hiccup from yours truly. All right, are we exhausted on the lines?
Yes.
All right, let's move on. The Stanley rubric. We have legacy up first. I really need to go through and explain each category anymore if we're really having questions about how our points are decided, but legacy is a measure of the legacy of the film. I know, it's in the title, isn't it? Like using the word in the definition. But anyway, it's a measure of the legacy roughly 5 years after the movie came out. So from about 2009 to now, what is the legacy of this film? We divide this category between the industry and the audience at large, because those are two very different things, especially when it comes to this movie. And we give them 5 points apiece for a total of 10. So, Dad, would you like to go first or second?
Oh, well, I'll go first. For the industry, the critics were mixed on the first. The second kind of fell in. They've done 10 of these, so I have to give it points for they think that this is a decent enough group of films to make money. So I went with 3.5. For the public, just the informal poll of my office, which is not the world's, great cinemaphiles, about 75% of them had seen the film.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, and all kind or across all ranges. So I went with a 4 for the public. It drew really well. It did well. It still draws well. It's well known. When you mention Saw, people immediately recognize what it is. So I'm at a 7.5 overall.
Okay, well, we are going to be very, very different. For an industry standpoint, I don't care that they've made 10 of these. There is a hold your nose quality at 10 franchise films that I don't think that the industry necessarily respects this. They respect that the money it makes. I don't think the critics are particularly high on these films, even if Saw X somehow performed better, and Spiral, I think, kind of was somewhat well received, I guess, as kind of a comedic take on it. I don't know. I'm reading all of this like after the fact. But for the original, I think they give it a little bit of credence, but for the most part, they kind of are very dismissive of most of these horror genre films. These are not held in prestige. They're kind of a afterthought. They're made for the most part very cheaply, and so that you can put these out. And so this kind of again creates somewhat of a model for franchising where like Blumhouse can create a ton of very cheaply made films but get a lot of gross profit out of it. And as such, the horror genre has kind of overtaken as one of the most cost-effective genres in Hollywood at this point in time. You don't have to spend much to potentially make much. And by extension, I think that Hollywood generally holds its nose for most horror and particularly horror franchises. I have a 1 on that side. For the audience, while there are a lot of people that have seen the original, and maybe this is my anecdotal reading of this thing, I don't think it's as widespread as we would necessarily think. I am very shocked that The Office overall had it at 75% of people, because there's a fairly wide dichotomy of age ranges and genders and cultural backgrounds among our office, even though they're homogeneously in place. But even so, i.e., white, I still only have this at about a 3 on that side of it because I don't think that this is as widely appealing as maybe we're making it out to be originally. So I have a 4.
I think I'd like to go last if that's okay.
Okay. Definitely my legacy would be like 3 and 4. 3 for the industry and 4 for the public. 4 because it still is Saw. It still has people going to the movie theater to watch it. It still has this cultural impact. But as far as the industry goes, I feel probably if you'd asked me like years before, it would still have this hype of something brand new that came and kind of like redefined torture porn or violence in film. But now, like, it's coming into its dying days. Even the genre itself is like losing it. Yes, it made a lot of money, so 10, but I don't feel like its legacy is as lasting as it used to be. So definitely it was 3 and 4 for me.
All right. So, I mean, it's good that you have video on this because you might actually see my brain break on screen while doing this rubric
I
here.
think I'm already experiencing that. But
I'll-
yeah.
I'll just for the casual listener, like I've been on episodes on Shane and the best years of our lives, and Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, and we're talking Saw here today. So I'm
Yes, you currently have been on episodes this year that are ranked number 3 and number 10 on our overall list.
The list you've been on, Kieran, if you went to a desert island and just had the films you had available, you would have a very comfortable time on this desert island.
I think so. And listen, I'd have Shawshank and Saw right there for me,
Yep.
so that might be all I need anyway. But no, boy. Okay, so this is like because when I'm thinking about like audience, and we're talking about what is Dana polling The Office, and no one's heard of Shane, no one's heard of Cat on the Hot, and now everyone's heard of Saw, but does anyone really like it? This is complicated. So now when we talk industry here, if you asked me this 3 years ago, my number would be lower. But I think the fact that the yearly Saws stopped, some time passed, we had Spiral, and then we went, and now we started the cycle again. To me, there's the industry is showing that there's some value here in this. I do think that we need, and Jaylan kind of touched on this a bit. There is a negative legacy to Saw 2. To Saw also, sorry, I wouldn't want to bring up a future episode of Gmo Saw 2.
Kieran alone in his own bathroom basement.
with fat heads of Dana and Tom, and I'm doing voices of
Lathering himself up in peanut
And you're
butter.
sassy and you're very sad. Like, hey, yeah, so what now? Like you're Adam.
Oh Lord. Okay. There is a negative connotation. Saw pushed dominoes towards what was known as the the torture horror genre, where we got into the hostels and then a bunch of knockoffs of the same thing. So I think what Saw was trying to accomplish, it also accomplished some negatives within the industry. So I feel like I kind of had to go with an even 3 here with this, where while it has accomplished a great amount within the industry, it has also left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and there's been a tug of war that's going on. So smack in the middle with a 3 seems right to me. I think I'm going to go the same with the audience with a 3. I initially had a 2.5, and I think I've talked myself up a bit. There is a definitive fan base. Now, the fact that there's 10 movies here, I don't know that that's really even that unique within the horror genre. How many Chucky movies are there? How many Freddy movies are there? How many Jason movies are there? We're getting up to our 8th Scream movie now, I think, so it is not uncommon to have a ton of remakes and re-envisionments of a series within that. So I don't hold that against it with the later ones being bad. But I think I'll go a push on the audience, because I think while this movie leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, possibly even the majority of people's mouths, it is very weirdly like a household name. Like I think that the Jigsaw puppet is recognizable. I don't know if it's as recognizable as Chucky, but it might be on the puppet Mount Rushmore. So I'll give it a 3 on each, and I'll give it a 6 total.
Yeah, Jigsaw is right there next to Elmo.
Yeah. Let's put it this way: if
Who's scarier, though?
if Frankenstein were released in more modern days, he would have been married more times than Liz Taylor.
That's true. And they would baby girl him too. Like, oh, baby girl, he's so cute. Good. He's going to eat you. Good luck with that, girl.
We got a Frankenstein remake coming up, though, I think. There'll be
With
another
Jacob
reimagining of that.
Elordi.
Oh, Lordy.
I can't stand Elordi. I'm sorry. I call him Eordi. Like, no.
So that is a 6.13 average between the four of us. Gotta love those decimal points. All right. Let's go to impact and significance. This is a measurement of the first 5 years that we just discounted, but similarly about kind of the legacy of the movie, but more on how it left an impact with both the industry and the audience at large at the time that it came out and in the few subsequent years after its initial release. So, since Dad went first last time, I will start us off. On this one, I think it's hard to deny that due to the prevalence of the sequels, the fact that they spawned kind of a certain fervor among a fan base, that they were highly profitable, that James Wan obviously went on to do some other bigger things. I'll give it a 2.5 on the industry, but it's hard for me to measure, not being from kind of the horror fan genre, what the true impact among the horror genre is. So maybe me leading off isn't necessarily the best thing, and I will reserve some open space to maybe modify that number as we go along. But on the audience side of things, these are never like the biggest films. They're profitable, but I don't see that these, during that initial release period, were ever like the top 10. But they were profitable, and that's why they kept being made. So I have a 3.5 on that side of it. I have a 6 for right now.
This is fun because, like, when we're talking about him, like, let's talk about a movie like, something like Belfast from a few years ago, which is a beautiful film. I love it a lot. And, from an industry standpoint, it was up for all the awards. It won an Oscar for screenplay. It was a favorite for Best Picture for a little bit there. But, like, has anybody talked about Belfast but me since then? I don't think so. But now we talk about something like Saw, which would never even be a joke at the Oscars, let alone be included in some sort of awards. Probably didn't even win like the horror award show of the year.
But it was just nominated, I thought, for a Saturn.
Okay, so it won. It was the Belfast of the Saturn Awards. But it changed the game within the industry. I mean, it became its own genre. It became, like we said before, a bit of a household name, and it was and spoofed endlessly. It was spoofed on every single, whether it was South Park or Scary Movie, or it became its own cultural thing. So within the industry, I had to give it an impact of a 4. With audience, a lot of the same thing. Once things are only going to be spoofed and joked upon if they really caused a stir within the audience. Look at see like a Blair Witch in the horror genre, where that is just became like, it was all people were talking about, and it was all people were joking about. A Saturday Night Live, we're South Park, wherever it is, it's right in the center of things. So I think just causing that level of fervor amongst the people within that 5 years, tack on the fact that there were 4 or 5 sequels within that 5-year gap, I gave it a 4 with the audience too. So I have an 8 here.
I think for me it's 4 and 3, because on the industry I can see its impact and its significance way more than the audience. In the audience, it was more of, yes, the film that they watch, but I've seen films with bigger impact or significance audience-wise. But its impact on the industry, the fact first of all, of all those sequels, and second of all, redefining a genre, or as Kieran said, building a genre in itself. Now that's big. Like it hit the industry, and kind of the amount of crazy, violent rip-offs, kind of like emulations that came after this movie was released, or this series was released. I mean, endless. I mean, I would see like the most ridiculous things, and or a movie where it starts and then like people are just cutting each off for nothing. So definitely it had like a major impact. It kind of redefined the genre itself on the industry. Maybe on the audience side of things I wouldn't see it as much, but still it was a money grabber. It brought money, it brought fans, people just, like enjoying the puppet or whatever. But still it had like an effect, even though culturally probably nothing, unlike other films which had like more and more like deep-rooted presence in the collective consciousness.
Well, for me, from the industry itself, they didn't like this film that much to begin with. It was once they started seeing the money flowing in and the impact and how it connected with people in general. So I gave it a little bit down. I'm at a 2.5 for industry. The public seemed to like it for the people that loved this genre. But again, the horror genre is a very, it's a subset. So I'm at 6.5 overall.
I just want to throw out there, Tom, before you announce the score, there's something to be, and Dana, totally agree. Like there is that subset feel of the horror genre, but there's something to be said for the movie that people don't just say, "Oh, I gotta see that." The movie that people go, I would never see it. But it gets across their desk, but it makes them go, I don't want to watch that. And me and Jaylan were those people were like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere near that. And years later, it kind of it's tickling in the back of your head, like, God, maybe I gotta check it out. So just the fact that it offends people who haven't seen it, there's some impact there.
I don't know if I have that thought or I share that thought. I mean, you made some good points on the other part, so I alluded to a blind spot on my part for this particular genre, so I will give it a point up adjustment, and I'll go to a 7, but that puts it at a 7.13. Other than name recognition, which we've argued before, particularly in legacy, but not necessarily in impact and significance, I don't know if I buy negative association as a point in favor of something's impact. Maybe in its fluidity within culture, but that could be a blip in time.
If we're going to talk about cultural impact within that first 5 years, Blair Witch Project, which was completely fresh and new, and everybody was trying to jump onto the bandwagon there.
Well, that's
and
a
then
10.
it came
That's
at
a 10.
Yeah, and the impact and significance, but the legacy is going to be drastically lower.
Yeah, because nobody thinks about it after that first 2 or 3 years.
Well, because everybody knows the ending now.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move to Novelty then, which is a adjustment between both the originality of the idea and the execution of the overall product. We divide the category 5 and 5 here. So who would like to start?
Me.
Apparently Jaylan.
4 originality, 2 execution.
Okay, so 6. I'm not too far off from that. Again, I think from an originality standpoint, there is some that I will give credit to, but given the fact that I had so many allusions to 7 with this, which I just think is a better conceptual film, a lot better dialogue, a lot more creativity to it. And I don't know if I appreciated the perspective of the torture aspect as much. I have a 2 only for the originality or the novelty of the idea, but I also agree on the execution. There are some really grainy things with the camera work, which it's partially due to budgeting. The set production isn't great. Again, this was very cheaply made, and the casting is probably where all the money went in, and the acting is just, for the most part, bad.
Amazing.
So
No, it's amazing. It is amazing. It's amazingly bad.
Acting ever.
Yeah.
So the 2 might be a gift, but
Kiriel, oh my God. He should have been nominated for a Razzie just from that scene.
ultimately I have a 4.
I am going to second Tom's 4 here. This is kind of like a little bit of a hand-eye trick of Novelty. Like we mentioned it before with 7. We can talk about Child's Play. We could talk about Friday the 13th and Hellraiser, and this genre has laid the ground for all sorts of what these guys picked the pieces up on. It just kind of clicked. So I think Saw is not nearly as novel as it looks on paper. And when you really break it down, 7 is not even a decade before it. So we're really kind of in that mix. What's 7's 95?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's within the decade. It's fun that people took the ball and ran with it, but I don't know how truly novel it all is. So the points that I gave it on the impact and the legacy of the industry and what grew out of it, that a lot of that is situational with the time. So I'm gonna second Tom's 4 here.
All right, to you, Dad.
I thought there was elements that were very original. The twists and some of the methods they use. So I'm going to give that a 3. The execution, I actually was surprised at how well it was done. For a low budget film that's a horror film, it's no wonder that he has gotten more opportunities as a result of this. So I had a 3. So I'm actually at a 6 overall because maybe it's just me, but I was expecting a lot worse of a film than I saw.
Well, Dad, that's 2 4s and 2 6s. So what do you think the average is?
5?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Classicness, which we kind of generally explained a little bit earlier, is a hard to position category, but we usually start at the baseline 7 and work up or down. For the most part, this is based on how well the movie ages or not, with clear blind spots on my part as to this franchise, this film, and the rest of it. And given that he is already giggling himself into a storm, Kieran, lead off classicness here.
That's it. I'm broken. I'm broken. We're talking about the classicness of Saw here.
You knew that was coming.
Let's start with the classicness of 2004 in general. All right.
We talked about it last week. The top 3 films were Harry Potter, Spider-Man 2, and Shrek 2.
And I think Papa Roach was number 1 on the Billboard charts. I mean, Jaylan brought it up with like the cheesy nu metal songs playing in the back. I mean, 2004 was a time to be alive. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, Bush Carey.
Oh my
Iraq
Lord.
War.
It's many things. It's very hard for any movie out of this 2004 to 2006 section to fully survive.
Okay,
wow.
The hot singles. No. The hot singles, the number 5 songs for 2004, since you brought it up. Can you name any of them?
Was Mariah Carey in the mix there?
No.
Tell me.
Not in the top 5.
Black Eyed Peas?
No. Just before they kind of came out.
Nickelback is, I think, a little before this, but they're on their run.
Their first one that I really remember them kind of blowing up with someday is 17.
Okay.
So what is the first 5? Tell us. I want to remember that time.
Okay, number 5, and this will help you a little bit, but Outkast, The Way You Move.
Oh, I like the way you move. Do. That was the Tiger Woods Golf, the EA Sports. That was like the just played on loop while you were like buying your apparel.
Yes, as said by every Applebee's waitress.
Wow.
Okay. And Data trying to break the show again. Number 4, Maroon 5's This Love.
Yes,
I won't sing it for you, but what a banger.
these are the
This
days.
love has taken its toll on me. Yeah, anyway.
Say goodbye too many times before.
All right. Number 3, Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You.
Oh, banger of a song. It's a wonderful
Okay,
song.
this is a great
Okay.
song. These were
Yeah,
great
no.
times.
Number 2, Usher's Burn.
I can't. I don't have Usher's Burn ready to go. I'm sorry. I love Usher. I don't have his Burn ready to go.
I mean, I know the song in my head, but I don't have the words. And
If you-
another Usher song, but featuring Lil Jon and Ludacris. Number 1, Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wears
that-
a
that
Braves
nothing
hat in that
says
music video.
2004, more like that song.
Okay. Wow. We finally did the Gmote time capsule music section. I've always wanted that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the outro will be Dana singing Burn a cappella.
Why can't you just let it burn?
Wow.
Wow.
All right.
I love
So
Yeah.
classicness.
So
Kieran, go
I
ahead.
got it. The classics. The classicness of Saw. I mean, Jesus. I mean, a 1. I'll give it a 2. I'll give it a 2 because I love it. How about that?
Okay, if you're going even lower than I would have.
I just don't. I mean, oh God. All right, talk me up, Tom.
I mean, again, if you started a baseline 7, how many points are you like really discounting? I mean,
Oh, let's start with the reverse bear trap, baby.
Yes.
That's 2 points right there. The heavy set guy crawling through razor blades. That's another 2 points right there. We're already down to a 3.
I don't necessarily like have those as points off. I mean, I have a -2 for how many sequels there are and beating this entire concept to death. I have a -1 for the gore and the torture porn aspects. And you could maybe make an argument for an extra one off. I might for the dated tech in this. But other than that, I think I had a 4.
For classicness?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at what point in time do we just go, why are we enjoying torture? And
I was seriously thinking to myself on Saturday after I watched this, there needs to be a bill in Congress to limit the amount of violence on screen from this country.
yeah.
Especially senseless violence.
You sound like Nancy Reagan over there, Tom.
I know. This movie's got me going conservative. It's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jaylan. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know. Like, I keep imagining, like Saw, it's a classic. And I just can't.
Gone with the Wind? Saw.
Saw. How do you like Saw, Jaylan? It's a classic.
I'm just picturing Tom's head on Nancy Reagan's body.
Oh, I want to see this.
This has now gone completely off the rails.
Next week, Tipper Gore is going to join Tom as they discuss Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
To be fair, 5.83 was the classicness score for Gone with the Wind.
So this has to be like 2.5 or something. Something that just like.
I have to give it like 3 points down just by the sheer the stupidity of the violence. I mean, the shotgun scene, blowing his head off. I mean, really? And of course, if you did not know, the hacksaw was invented during the Civil War to remove bones. That was what they used to remove limbs during the Civil War. And, now it's made full circle into a film. where you have to cut your foot off.
And there's your Gone with the Wind tie in there. Nicely done.
Yeah. So I'm at a 4.5 for classicness.
All right, what do you got, Jaylan?
2.5. This is for the ridiculous of trying to like say it's a like in my head it's like it's a classic even for something that I love, and people are like, why do you watch this? It's a classic. I can't say this about Saw. Like, no, I'm not gonna say this about it. This is not a classic to me. Classic
All
is
right.
something people just going against me and I'm defending it, like, no, it's a classic. But I'm not gonna defend Saw, you guys can eat it. You know what I mean? Like, rip it apart. Just
All right, Jaylan, you talked me up to a 2.5. I agree.
yeah.
Wow. When I'm the high.
That's amazing. I mean, I Dana's scoring of Saw has been just euphoric for me.
And generous.
To be perfectly honest, it was better than I thought it was going to be.
I'm
You are
fully
so
enjoying
generous,
myself. This
Dana.
is incredible. No, he's been dropping truth all night. Can't wait to hear him sing "Burn."
All right.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a 3.38 between the four of us. Oh, good God. All right. Rewatchability.
0 for me.
You'll never watch it again under any circumstances.
Bye and good riddance. Why? I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. I even have like the crappy, trashy, violent films I love. I told you I love like I Spit on Your Grave, High 10. Not this. No. Come on. Give me fun. Give me people just slicing in fun, not just dying and losing hope, please. Be
Okay.
happy.
Well, we have the low man established.
No one can go lower.
Well, we've never experienced negative numbers.
True.
Oh.
That Saw 2 episode, let me tell you.
Room for a first.
Yes.
I don't think anybody's actually ever given a full 0 on something. Excuse me. I think Jaylan did like 3 weeks ago for Joker.
You guys don't know me.
Which
Kieran doesn't know me.
I would love to have you do the review for Joker 2.
Yes, I'm coming.
Hey.
Because considering the reviews I've read, I'm like, wow.
Well, Jaylan, I'll say I saw Joker in theaters and have not rewatched it and have 0 plans to rewatch it. So it's tracking right now. It's tracking.
Uh-huh.
I'll go next here. So if it comes on, there's not a prayer I'm turning it off. I'll tell you that right now. It's staying on.
Ooh.
And I put this one on regularly, like in spooky season. It's not like Easter Sunday, and I'm like, hey, we're watching Saw.
Christmas. Ooh.
Right? Yeah, but it's a seasonal watch for me. I actually appreciate going back to the original, knowing what came of it, and being someone who's seen all of them multiple times and all that. There's a world where this is a flat out 10 for me.
Wow.
I will say though, I now have another person in my life, so I've reevaluated rewatchability a bit, and I did not watch this with my girlfriend. I did not subject her to it. So I think that alone needs to have a penalty. If you can't just be like, hey, come watch this for the first time. You're like, I'm going to go to the other room and watch this one. It gets a point off. So I'm going to go with a 9. I'm going to give it the penalty and give it the 9 rewatchability. And this is the subjective score, so I'm getting a little revenge for Shawshank when Tom slammed Shawshank on the rewatchability category.
How much did you
Slammed
give
it? You
Tom?
even said after the fact that I got it right.
Wait, how much did you give it? Did you give it like 2 or 3? Because nobody.
You'll have to
gave
go back
your...
and re-listen to that
Yeah,
one.
you got to go listen.
Okay. I'm
Great
excited.
episode.
I'm excited.
So it's to me.
Yeah.
I have the comedy factor that I'm going to implement on rewatchability.
Yes, I love that.
What?
Okay?
Awesome.
I am not rewatching this film ever. But if it happens to be on and your mother's anywhere near,
Now that's
I'm going to
understandable.
put it on and get her to try and watch like 5 minutes of it and just watch her squirm and go completely like off the rail. Which is what happens when after 36 years together, you just kind of go, yeah, well, okay. Yeah.
The mailman
So-
comes by and he just starts dropping off mail. Mail's, oh no, come inside. He's about to pretend to be poisoned by a cigarette. Come on, you got to come and check this out.
So I'm at a 1.5.
So, in other words, what you're promoting here is your own Jigsaw factor.
Yes.
Oh,
Ooh,
I like it.
yes.
I like this.
Kieran is the considerable outlier here.
Come on, Tom. You're watching this next month.
Well, I will say, now that it has been kind of revealed for me, I fear it a lot less than I did. Much in the same way that, like, I would have no problem going back and rewatching The Shining now that I've actually seen it. It doesn't feel as fearful to me. This one I won't have as much of a problem putting it on. But am I going to go out of my way to put this on? No. Shut the fuck up.
Amazing.
Anyway, I have it higher than you, fart face.
Ooh, I've been burned.
Anyway, for my own personal rubric on putting it on, it's somewhere between only if I had to again, which I can't see a world in where I have to put this on ever again, and one where I'd be actively trying to avoid it. So that's like a 1.5 for me. As far as leaving it on, it is a straight 1. I would probably turn it off immediately if it started playing anywhere because I have no interest in trying to rewatch this like very much further. It's only going to have rewatchability if I have to put it on at some point in time. So I'm at a 2.5 as opposed to Dana's 1.5. Who's the real fucking wuss? Anyway, that makes
I
it
just don't like it. I don't fear it.
Anyway, this is a 3.25 average between the four of us.
Wow.
I like Dana's unintentional comedy outlier though. That's pretty funny.
Hey, Chris, you want to play a game? Yeah, this would have been one that he would have, much like he used to get Halloween masks every year to scare each of our exchange students, especially the girls. Take of that what you will. But he'd sneak up behind them like late at night with lights off and scare the shit out of them. Thus, you know.
Or their boyfriends. That was the other one. That was awesome. When they would come over to meet me before they took them out for like homecoming or prom. And I would put on the rubber mask and I would just show up and stand behind them.
Oh.
So it seems you found a bit of a hero in Jigsaw by watching this.
Oh, yeah.
All I'll say is that he basically has tortured most of us for years. So for audience score on this one, we had an 83% from Google users and an 84% from Rotten Tomato users, giving us an 8.35. So to repeat the categories, we had a 6.13 for legacy, a 7.13 for impact and significance, a 5 for novelty, a 3.38 for classicness, a 3.25 for rewatchability, and an 8.35 for audience score, giving us a final total of 33.24, and currently placing it on our list at number 207 between The Help and The Quiet Man.
Oh, we're in help territory. We're in help and Quiet Man territory.
It finishes below Joker.
Wow. How many movies are behind it?
For me.
So you have The Quiet Man, Wedding Crashers, Victory, The Greatest Show on Earth, and Room.
Damn. Hello,
Yeah.
Hello, John Wayne. Want to play a game?
Now I'm getting behind that. Yes. I hate John Wayne.
Oh, that hurts a little bit, but all right. Gotta
You
gear up for
wanted
this.
to come on. You
Gotta
probably
g-
salvaged the score from being like below Victory with your rewatchability
True.
score.
Yeah.
This
true.
could have finished, if it was just the three of us without you, it would have probably finished below The Room.
Below everything.
True. God, I gotta gear up for the re-Saw in 4 years here. Re-election, Saw re-election.
Jaylan's got to pick a non-bottom 10 list film to do next time.
Exactly. I want to do something good. I was gonna tell you.
Yes, find something that's good. Please.
I'm gonna do Joker 2 with you guys, definitely.
No more clowns and puppets, Jaylan. No more clowns and puppets. Let's move on to other things.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Yeah. As always, if you had any disagreements with our scores, you can email us at greatestaltimemoviepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on any of our socials at Gmote Podcast on Letterboxd, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Or you can find us on our website, RonnieDuncanStudios.com/Gmote Podcast. All right, now for what segment that Kieran has been just dying for the entire episode, remaining questions. Number 1, if the blood was poisoned, how did Jigsaw not die in the center of the room covered in it?
I have always had problems. I want to throw a sub question on top of this. Like, could you die from dipping a cigarette in poisoned blood and smoking it? Would that kill you?
I'm not a doctor, nor do I try to play one in my day job like my father does. There's at least some plausibility that you might be able to if it's something that gets into the bloodstream, if it's a pulmonary issue and how it's ingested. Maybe. I don't know.
So to answer your question, Tom, I would say it's one of two things. And we know Jigsaw's all about mind games here. So either it was never really poisoned to begin with, because obviously the guy didn't really shoot himself. It was all makeup. So that was either just fake blood and they did the cigarette thing just so he'd see how he'd react to the scenario, or he put poison, dyed poison on the ground and he just, kind of laid in it in a safe way. He had the prosthetics. I would think it's one of those two things.
It just feels like a plot hole to me, but all right. 2, what was the point of putting himself in the center of the room?
Sheer masochism. I mean, he's a voyeur. He loves the same. They had the peephole in there. He wants to be part of it, and he, as a Saw historian, Jigsaw Jigsaw has to have some stakes himself. Like it's like if he's putting all these people at risk, he needs to throw himself into the game. We will see this later in Saw 3. He's not without putting himself at consequence and putting himself in the center there too. And it's pretty badass when he comes up and crawls up.
I love this too because there's this amazing film called The Hole starring Thora Birch, which I really liked. And she was a masochist too. Like she subject her friends to a very twisted game, and she kind of like locked the dome above them, and they were like locked down in a basement for like days and days and months and stuff, and they all started dying, and she was enjoying that she was getting tormented with them as well. So I feel like he's the same person. He just loves to be tormented as well. Like he's not just a sadist, he's a sadomasochist, which is even a bigger badass than just being a sadist. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna torture myself too. So this is the only thing that kind of appeals to me in the whole thing. This is why the corpse was the most charismatic.
All right, Mr. Saw historian, which might be one of the most useless historians we have. But do either Adam or Dr. Gordon survive?
Okay, so I will now notify
Spoiler
the listeners.
warnings.
Yes,
for
I will
everybody.
notify the listeners. For those of you who are planning on binging the next 9 Saw movies, I'm now going to reveal the fates of these characters. Okay. We will start with Adam, and we learn right away in Saw 2 that he is killed. Okay, he is suffocated and killed in that room by Jigsaw's accomplice, and we'll leave that. I won't even spoil that because that's a big part of Saw 2. As far as our friend Carrie Ills, he would go into a real life lawsuit battle with the producers of Saw, and it would be a big thing behind the scenes with it, where it was about pay or whatever it was, but he disowned his association with Saw for several years settled, figured it out, and came in the final Saw movie. Tom, you already talked about the horror movies in the finals. The Saw 3D, the final chapter, which I believe is Saw 7. He is revealed as he came and as he left the room, he was inspired by Jigsaw and ended up helping him along the way. So he becomes a disciple of Jigsaw there. But he does it is fun getting his reveal at the end, because it's like, oh, you knew that, like, he openly was like, I wish I never was a part of this, and then he shows up in a sequel in that. So yes, he does live, and they never address what happens with his wife or daughter. Obviously, they never reconcile. He loses his mind, basically, and whatever he was. Seems like he was not a good father or husband to begin with. So so that is the fate of those two. And the fate of another character in this movie becomes a part of the future and the legacy of Saw. So
let's put it this way. He's a frickin' doctor. He doesn't understand that he needs to put a tourniquet on his leg once he saws his foot off.
Well,
he's going to bleed out.
He does try and put the shirt over it.
Or is his shirt?
He puts a shirt over it.
Very flimsy.
It's not a tourniquet.
It's not.
What other tourniquet option was he going to have?
He ties it around his he ties it around his thigh like the guy, the Them Apples guys tie the shirts around their waist in Good Will Hunting. It's like a Vineyards Vine character. Yeah.
No, because they're too fucking stupid.
Okay. All right. Part of the point that kind of eluded me, when Jigsaw wakes up out of the blood and says the key was in the bathtub, but there's no key. Like, what the fuck?
So the key gets sucked down the drain. The key gets sucked down the drain. It's the first shot of the film. The key has a neon thing to it, a glow in the dark thing to it. So presumably Adam, if he had woken up and not freaked out, he would have seen the glow in the dark key and either would have held it or done this or whatnot. But by chance, and one of Jigsaw's things is there is a bit of chaos to the games. By chance, the thing went down the drain and was no longer accessed. So it was a tough break for old Adam, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Gotta love that.
I have one. Can I throw?
Go right ahead.
It just this is a bit of a nitpick. It just always drives me bananas watching this film. It gives me anxiety and I scream at the screen every single time. He's on the phone with his wife and daughter, and there's gunshots and there's all sorts of things going on. But he's contact. How could you possibly lose grasp of that phone? That phone is your connection to your wife and your daughter. You know that they can call you back. You know that you can. It is completely unacceptable to me that he would not have that phone in his possession when they are trying to call him back. To me, I don't care how much he's freaking out. You would never lose grasp. That is the lifeline between your wife and your daughter. You would never lose grasp of that in your right hand. Or certainly not in the radius of what you can reach. That always drives me crazy. It's completely unbelievable to me.
The one that's more egregious to me, and you could say this on any like Bond movie or anything else, but shoot the fucker. You have him, he has tied you up, he has threatened to kill you, and you get the gun away from him. Why the fuck do you not just shoot him immediately? What are you waiting for?
I got a gun right now. I'll shoot him. No, one inept guard. The shark, the one inept guard. Scott, you just don't get it, Scott.
No, Mr. Bond. I intend for you to die.
Scott, okay? Zip it.
I swear.
No, I mean, you're 1,000% right.
It happens a lot with female characters, especially. And she's like shaking, kill him, shoot him. Who are you? Come on, he's threatening you. I just hate it so much when it happens.
And I can explain this last question on the basis that they just didn't have a budget for extras. But why the fuck wouldn't two detectives take backup with them to a serial killer's potential lair? Like, once you discover it, call it the fuck in.
Yeah, this is the Silence of the Lambs factor. They do do a half-ass shitty job of explaining it. Like they're like, warrant? Who needs a warrant? Like, or they're just like, well, whatever. Like, at least we have darkness on our side. Like,
What?
and that's another one.
Warrant?
That's another one.
We don't know these stinking warrants.
That's another one. Just shoot him. Like he has a victim locked in a torture device. Like shoot him. He turned it on. Shoot him. Like that's another one too. So I will say it is pretty sweet that she rips the gun out of the guy's hand. Like that's one. How many times in movies you're like, God, just rip it out of his hand. Just get him.
Come on.
Like, she does grab that. Yeah.
All right. Any other remaining questions?
No, I think we're good.
No.
All right. I have gone through it. I have come out the other side. We're here at the end of the game. So, I want to thank both of our guests for being with us. I hope you enjoyed your time on this episode. Kieran, remind everybody again what you're doing and where people can find you.
You can get us at Best Picture Cast. It's Best Picture Cast, simply that. We're on Twitter, X. We are on Instagram. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're a lot of fun. It's Best Picture winners. I know they can be polarizing and a bit of a lightning rod for some, but we cover them all. We have about 25 or so remaining to cover, and it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we have some fun doing long form roundtable chatter there. So, Best Picture Cast, come check us out.
And Jaylan, where can people find you and what are you working on?
I'm currently working on multiple reviews for the places that I write for, In Session Film, Geeky Vibes Nation. I'm also preparing a great Halloween episode with my friend Kristen, that is Stella. We're going to go live and talk about Dark Shadows on YouTube. Hopefully we'll be in costumes too, so it's going to be so much fun. You can find me on YouTube, the J Days Reviews, on Twitter, Jaylan_88, and on Instagram, Jaylan Salman.
Excellent. And again, all of their links will be available on the website as well as in the show notes for this episode. Dad, any remaining thoughts for the week?
Yes, I have a couple. I saw 2 films. There was a Netflix film, His 3 Daughters. That was a very interesting film. If you've ever had to deal with siblings and parental death, it was very illuminating. Very poignant, very on the spot. The other is I went to the theater and I saw, much to your mother's chagrin, she actually put up with sitting through this with me. She did it for me, sitting through Saturday Night, which is the story of the first episode of Saturday Night Live, which I actually saw in October 4th, 1975. And I enjoyed it tremendously. It was chaotic. It was entertaining. It was, if you're a fan of the show or at any point in time, it's worth watching. And I would recommend both films for anybody looking for something to see.
I will also make a recommendation. I know that the last few weeks I've basically been alluding to the fact that I really don't have the ability to consume a whole lot of media or other things. But as it stands right now, I'm in the middle of a very good audiobook that I know that my father read many, many years ago, but that I have partially on his suggestion, but on some others as well. I started listening to as part of our prep for the 1967 episode of the Revisionist Almanac that's upcoming. And that would be Pictures at a Revolution by Mark Harris. I'm very much enjoying the book. And it goes through the 5 Best Picture nominees of that year. So In the Heat of the Night, Dr. Dolittle, Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. So it's the story or the making of all 5 of those films and kind of the cross-section of where Hollywood was at, kind of coming out of the code era and more into the MPAA rating system as they loosened up on things and kind of made more of a run at French New Wave intersplicing right before the 70s, where we had the explosion of kind of what many people think is the best decade in film. So anyway, That'll do it for us this week. Thank you for listening. Liberty's too precious a thing to be buried in books, Miss Saunders. Men should hold it up in front of them every single day of their lives and say, I'm free to think and to speak. My ancestors couldn't, I can, and my children will. Boys ought to grow up remembering that. Next week, for our 235th episode, we welcome back a different member of the Five Timers Club, Sarah Duncan, as well as a new guest, Brian Scuttle of Sonic Cinema Podcast, for a politically earnest film of yesteryear as we discuss Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 1939 for its 85th anniversary. Directed by Frank Capra, written by Sidney Buckman and Miles Conley. Music by Dmitry Tiomkin, starring James Stewart, Jean Arthur, Claude Rains, Edward Arnold, and Thomas Mitchell. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you. That's REELGOOD. Please like, follow, rate, and review, or whatever on whichever platform you have so that more can join in on our fun. You can also email the show at thenewRyanDuncanStudios.com or at greatestalltimemovie@gmail.com. Or find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, or TikTok at the handle @GModePodcast. The Greatest Movie of All Time is a production of Ryan Duncan Studios. Our show is mixed, edited, and written by Thomas Duncan. Our music is thanks to Purple Planet Music. Our technical provider and distributor is Captivate FM.